hope my screen is visible to everyone. And yeah, so last session we showed everyone how to work in GitHub both locally and in the website as well, and how to make pull requests as well. So one small update. I'll come to the code. I've made branches for those who have forked it that day. So why exactly? So whenever you're making a pull request, I'll just show you an example. Uh, what I want you to do is over here it will show your name, and over here it will show uh, my repository, right? So, and you don't have to create your own branch. What you can do is from your repos main branch, you can fork it to the main repos in the branch your name. Okay, something like this. So I will take care of the merges later. What you can do is you just have to fork from your main to the branch of to your branch, the branch in your name in the main repository. All right. Whenever we make some changes, I mean it's not immediate. We'll start getting to it probably in a week later. Uh, all right. So we were in the planning the database schema. All right. Yeah. So this is what we planned so far in the last based on the features that we had written. I'll pull up that as well. Till that loads, we made a user details table that will have a primary key user ID, the name of the user, and for more context, I'll just put it as full name. Right? We'll have the user's username, their email, and this will be the hashed password. Okay, because we don't want to store the exposed password. Okay, this is the hashed password. Uh, One more thing we can say is that like this was user created at it. I think registered at will make more sense. And both are same, just different terms that will correlate with the table itself. After that, yeah, we will be saving. This is just a features uh, thing. So if I come over here and add one, we can save when the user last logged in. All right. So we can show the user activity over here, and then since it's a blog, right, we will be checking out authors' information, their profile. So when you see a profile, we usually see information like a headline and a bio associated with it, something like an about for that particular author. So you can add that as well. So yeah, I'll just come over here and add one. You can put it as intro, the intro or the headline, and
Instead of that, we can just mention bio.
yeah, okay, we can do that as well. Bio. Sound okay, so yeah, my way. So we can just put the bio as well. So these are all the information we need associated with the user. But there's one more thing, right? So we'll need to uh, save the users uh, like social media links as well, their Instagram, their LinkedIn. So when you go to the profile, you can go to that person's social media accounts as well, right? So initially there was a bit of a problem uh, of how we will exactly store it, because in what I had an idea was uh, we'll be having the links as an object, right? So it'll be like Instagram, Insta as and then some link, Facebook and some link, Twitter, add something and stuff like this. This I thought we would save it as a link uh, field over here. So I just add another one. So you can just put links related to that user. All right, but there comes a problem in SQL. We don't have a object data type, right? So what I thought was we can just stringify this. So
Kunal, are we sticking to SQL only?
yeah, for this one we are using SQL.
Okay.
Probably okay. So have you guys heard of high 14s? This show to you high 14s. The where we it's our own clubs project where it's like a bloggers community. It's an application. Right now it's down, but we have the backend ready. uh, we are planning to build a new app and a new website also that goes in parallel with the same backend. So what we planned is we'll be using React for the front end, and after this, after we complete this full stack project, we will be taking like small sessions in React, and then we will work on this high 14s project, all of us together. So in this, it's mostly most of the work is front end, that is React, because the backend is already built by a team before. If you want to learn about, I mean, right now we're using SQL, which is we can in future projects like we had planned one more like website for all the SRM clubs, something like that. So for that, we'll probably use MongoDB. So we can learn it over there as well. But for now, we are using SQL because we want to get a hang of how to make queries and how to update it from the backend itself. So that's the main goal of this using SQL right now. I hope that's clear. Yeah. So yeah, I was telling like we can't store JSON in SQL, so we probably have to stringify it. So link string JSON dot stringify and then pass in links. Okay, and just control numbers. Yeah, so it'll be something like this. And later, what we need to do is we'll have the user object, right? So we'll have that the name, right? Their email. I'm not writing all of it, just an example. Correct, and finally we'll have the links, right? So over here we cannot store this and then pass it directly. We'll have to save it as a string in the, I mean, yeah, you might say, why don't we just make it a string altogether and pass it? But if you remember correctly, in SQL, we have to pass them individually, right? So to pass them individually, we have to pass it with respect to the data type it has. So uh, wha- what we are actually doing is we are individually passing them into the table. So I'm passing only the string, the links in the form of string. Okay, and then console user. Okay. So you can see we have the user object and the links in the form of string. So this will be stored in the database. But now when I want to get it back from the database, I will get it in the form of a string. So this is this is how I'll send to database. But when I query it back from the database, so back from DB, I will get it in the form of string. So just for seeing how it will be. So I just put user string is equal to JSON dot stringify stringify and pass in user. Okay, console dot log. Alright, so now is sorry, not user string. So now you can see the clear difference, right? So we this is how we will send it to the database, and when we needed to get it back, the we will get it back in this format. So now we, you know, the obvious method. How do we make it readable, right? So const parsed user is equal to JSON dot parse user string and control dot log parsed user, and just comment this out and this one. Okay, so now we have it back in object, but the links is still in a form of a string. So what I would have to do is again put parsed user dot links is equal to JSON dot parse, and then parsed user dot links. Hopefully this works. And yeah, you can see, but this looks you know, it doesn't look so good over here. Actually, JSON dot pass allows a second argument called a reviver function. Okay, so I'll just put it down here. Okay, so it's JSON dot parse. First one, it takes in the JSON that needs to be passed in the in string, obviously. I mean, that's what it expects at most, and a reviver function. Okay, this revival function, it basically takes, it has two more, it takes in two more arguments, that is the key and the value of the parsed JSON. Okay, so and whatever we do, we'll have to return the value. If we return, if it comes return null or undefined, the whole, that particular key also becomes undefined. So if you're using a revive function, it's important to return the value. Let's actually see how to use it. So say I have, I told it, so it takes in the key and value, and I'm not going to return anything. I'm not returning anything right now. So it's giving me undefined for the whole uh, past user. Okay. So how, suppose I put return value, in this case is giving me all, right? So in the, within the JSON.parse, I can put in a logic over here, right? So if key is equal to links, and I'm going to use the, sorry, it's, and I'm going to use a ternary operator over here. So question mark, okay, that's the ternary operator, and I'll put JSON.parse value for the links key, that is this one, pass that, or its value. And one more thing, for this I have to put a return. Okay, so what this statement basically means is, if the key is for links, that is this one, then parse it again, and then return it to the past user for the particular links key. Else, return the value directly for the other keys itself. So I'll clear this, and you can see it's passed over here. So this is what we will be using for the links tab. I just thought it's be important to mention it right away. All right. Okay, so let's continue. The next one was the articles table. All right. So we had the, right, the primary key was the article ID, foreign key user ID, because we need to create a relation of which user wrote that article. Okay. Then we'll have the uh, title of the article, the body of that article, when the article was created at, okay, and when was it last modified. I forgot to mention an important one. So the article, when the author writes it, it can either be in a draft or it can be a published, right? So if it's in draft, the author can still, it's not visible to anyone yet other than the author. But if it's published, then everyone, including the author, can read it. So we need to add that field as well. So it is called is published. So if it's true, then yeah, everyone can read it. If it's false, no, that means only the author can read, and it's in a draft mode. All right. Is published when it was created, when it was last modified, and another one including uh, published tab. So these two fields, whenever this changes to true, this one also will get updated. Uh, okay, so these are the fields associated with an article. So, yeah, let's just refer it from here. Yeah, so these were the uh, from yeah 3 to 6. These were the mains one that are associated with the articles table. Next, let's just for now don't see these two. We'll just see the comments table. Okay. So when we want to add comments, right? So we'll need to have a separate table for that. Right. So this is my comments, and I will have the primary key. Every comment is a unique one. Okay. So this is my comment ID. Then I will have two foreign keys in this case. Can anybody think what it will be? Like, can you tell what the other foreign key will be? Any idea, guys? I mean, like how we saw in the articles table that every it has a one-to-many relationship that uh, one user can have many articles, but each article belongs only to one user. So you can see represented in this also. So whereas every article belongs to one user can have many articles. So that's what this sign represents over here. Any idea, guys, what the two foreign keys might be based on the features also? Like every comment is associated to two things. What might it be?
The user ID of the article and the user ID of the like the
Yeah. So
user.
basically, yeah. So user. I mean, you mean the article ID of the article, right? So that comment it should have a relationship with that article. So what is unique is the article ID and who wrote that comment, right? So that comment, uh, who wrote it can be related by the primary key of the.
One is article ID and one is user ID, right?
Yeah, exactly. Article ID. So these are the two ways I can define a relationship. Okay, so what are my other two things, right? So I will have my actual comment content, let's just call it that. Okay, and the other one is when was it commented at. So this is my relationship for my comments table. Okay, too small. Yeah. All right. So after that, next we have this one, uh, like a article, right? So how do I? What kind of structure will that have? It's similar to that of comments. So say likes. Okay. So in this case, yes, we will need a primary key, but having a unique primary key in the likes makes no difference, right? So I can like a same article many times. So creating a primary key would be redundant. But still, I need a primary key in the likes table because I will later need to like when I unlike it, I'll need to delete the entry. So to delete entry, you need a primary key in this case. So it what the primary key will just be an auto increment and that is what it's like and not null. So there is a primary key, but it has no significance of why we'll be using it. It is just there for the sake of allowing us to delete certain key values. So in this case, I'll have two foreign keys again. Okay, so the first one again, article ID. Okay, and like every likes can be associated with an article and who liked that article, right? So again, my user ID, and yeah, these two make we don't need any other fields. Let's remove this. Content, just keep it here. All right. So what was the next one? Next one, follow author, right? So this one is a bit complicated. I will leave that to the last. Let's just go to something easy first. Uh, we have an additional one, right? So save articles or like bookmark articles that you usually see in Medium or even dev.to over there. So we can just this is same exactly like likes. So this is like save something like a bookmark bookmark article, right? So in this case, again a foreign key, but it has no significance. It's just an auto increment and not null. This is what constraints we'll be putting. Then foreign key, it will be yeah, which article they are bookmarking, and again foreign key, who bookmarked that article. So that relation you can do to the user ID. I mean, the
Okay,
main
maybe
reason that
Kunal, one
yeah,
more thing you can add in user details.
yeah,
Like there is a string of links,
yeah,
there has to be a string of article IDs because we have to show the number of articles posted by the user.
yes, yes, exactly. So for that we learned joint queries, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so we don't have to put the article links over here.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we'll join the articles table with the user table for that
Yes,
detail, right?
yes, yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Fine. Cool. Cool. Cool.
Okay, so yeah, in the save part also we don't need anything else, just the two foreign keys, so we can remove the rest. I mean, the main idea being that we don't want information to get repeated, right? When it gets repeated, it becomes redundant. So, and plus it takes up a lot of space as well. So that's why joint query scheme. So you can keep information separated as and when, and join them as and when needed. All right. Mm, let us see. We have this one also, right? Allow tags and categories. So let's just think about this. If you go to the articles, we can add tags, right? But then if I keep adding tags, all the users might have different tags, right? So and some users might have the same tags for the different articles. So data is getting repeated over there at that place also. So instead of doing that, I can just mm, let's see. Okay, so I'll suppose say there's a category table, right? And it will have a category ID. So the category ID can be, I mean, some examples of categories are what, like uh, in blogs you might see like categories on technical blogs, or even UI UX category, uh, fitness category. So these all comes under that particular category table. So we'll have the category name. Okay, and the description for that category. Okay, so now how do I link it with my articles table, right? So whenever a new article is created, it will have a particular category associated with it, and I don't want to store it here because data will get repeated. So instead of doing that, I can just create another table and call it like article dash category. Okay, and over here it will again have a primary key, but the primary key has no significance, so it'll just be auto increment, not none, and it will have two foreign keys. Okay, pretty similar to the same and bookmark table. So for over here it will be the article ID, and then below that another foreign key, and this one will be the category ID. So why am I making it like this, right? So you can see we can have many categories, right? But putting all the categories in the article table will just repeat data. So many users can post an article under the same category, right? So uh, suppose it as a article on web development, right? So it comes under the technical category. So I can write an article, all of you can write one. So all of you keeping a category over here will make it difficult querying it, right? So I can just create a common article category table where it shows where I can put a query saying, hey, I want all the articles with the category of uh, web development or technical, and just get it from this table over here. Otherwise, I have to write a complex query over here, but in this, I can just put a uh, where as well. So I'm creating a like a intermediate table for both. So data doesn't get repeated over here. Similar way, in a technical article, I might have tags, right? Tags in the sense, okay, this article over here is about JavaScript and about promises, async await. So those are tags, right? So I can have a table for tags also. Tags, and in this case, I won't need a description. Same, similarly, a table for this one as well. So the article tag, primary key open increment, tag items, and I really need these two. Alright, so let's try and understand the relationship between all the tables over here. Okay, first starting off with the say the comments. Comments, it has a relationship with the articles table and with the user table. Okay, so I don't know. We can add a feature in yeah, comments within comments. Yes. Okay. So one user can have many comments. So it's a one to many relation, but each comment is only limited, is written only by one user. So it will be like a one to many relationship in this case. If I can find that. Yeah. Okay. So again, from my user ID to my comment ID relationship over here. Okay, it's getting a bit messy, but I just we just want to understand. Yeah, that's better. Little, and yeah, this one should be yeah, okay. And similarly, every comment is associated with a particular article, but one article can have many comments, right? So in the same way, it's a, well, let's just copy paste this. It's a one to many again. So an article ID can have many comments here. So in this case also, one article can have many comments, but each comment is only limited to, is in relationship only to one article over here. So it's a one to many relationship over here as well. Okay. What about my bookmark table over here? Okay. Uh, right. So I mean the main relationship over here is one user can bookmark many articles, and the same articles can be bookmarked by many users, so it's like a many to many relationship in this case, right? So many to many. The users table. Okay. Yeah, so
Users table or articles table?
I mean both the users table and the articles table, right? Because one user can have many saved, and one article can be saved by many users, so in the case it's both, right? Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. But what I think is if we look only the user's perspective, if we
Okay.
save the user details, then we can again have all the details of the article saved by that user, right? I'm not sure. I'm just
I
brainstorming.
mean, the main, yes, you're right. We can do that in this also. What you're talking about is a denormalized way of storing data. That is how it's mostly done in NoSQL
Yeah,
type
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
databases.
yeah.
Uh, but I mean, yeah, in SQL we usually try to keep that data in the related fields alone. So that's why we're doing like this. I mean,
Okay, okay, cool.
it's not necessary we put these lines, but I just want to you guys to understand the relationship between
Got it, got it, got it.
each table. So similarly, we can even have with the articles table as well, right? A many to many relationship in this case. Then the likes, right? So let's see here. In this case, it has a relationship with both the articles table and the user details table. So what relationship am I looking at over here? Can anybody think what relationship is coming over here? Any idea? I mean, just think of it this way. So, like, when a user likes an article, he can like it only once, right? So, one like belongs to that article, okay? To that user. Each user can like an article only once, all right? But at the same time, one article can have many likes. So, it's a one-to-one relationship with the user details table. At the same time, it's a uh, one to many relationship with the articles table in this case. Does it make sense? I'll just one to one, right? One to one with the users table and send it back. Okay. All right. Yeah, it is creating a bit of issue with the alignment issues. Okay, let's just remove because we don't want the data to. Okay, so in this case, it's a one-to-one relationship with the user details and a one-to-many. Why? Each like belongs to only one user. Okay, because the user can like an article only one time, and to the article, because one article can have many likes, right? So it's a one to many relationship in this case. Also, this table over here will be an intermediary for both. Sorry, not this. I'll bring this down and bring this up. Okay. Similarly, the article likes and my this one. Okay. So in this case, it's let's just take a look at it. So uh, many articles can come under the same category. All right. So each category can have many articles, but an article is limited to only uh, one category. So this is like a restriction we are putting. So if I'm writing a blog on JavaScript, so it comes under the technical category, right? So my technical article will come under the technical category. So it's a one-to-one relationship from the article side, but from the category side, one category can have many articles, right? So it's a one-to-many relationship in this case. Similarly, for the tags as well. But in this case, I'm not restricting the tags, uh, right? So uh, I might be talking about a technical concept, but that technical concept might relate to something else as well, right? So there is not an exact limitation over here. So one article can have many tags, and so it's like this is a kind of opposite over here. So it's like a one to many from the article's perspective, and same time, one tag can belong to a many article. So it's a one to many from both sides. Whereas in the categories case, from the article to category, it's a one to one relationship. But from the category to article, it's a one to many. Is this clear, guys? So far, what we've done? Any doubts about this?
No, not yet.
Okay, right. All right. So hope this is clear. Final one. This will be a bit tough to understand. I also took some time. So follow an author. All right. So in this case, how do we exactly make that table, right? So I'll have a table over here again. Follow follow more details. In this case, primary key is there, but it's redundant, so it'll be auto increment, not none. I'll have two foreign keys. Then I'll just add this down. Foreign key. This, this. Just a second. All right. So, what type of what am I looking at here, right? In the follower, how do I relationship put the relationship for the follower detail, right? So one thing, I'll have a primary key, but it's redundant because I might follow and unfollow the same person over and over again. So in this case, the primary key has no plays no role other than giving me additional functionalities for the table itself. Right. So my first foreign key will be like the follower ID, and second foreign key will be the followed ID. Follower, or you can say it. Yeah, followed makes more sense. Or following. I'll explain it. Okay. So what relationship I'm looking within this table itself. Okay. Obviously, my relationship with the user details will be like a one to one because each user can, uh, I mean, from the you following one person, it can be like you can follow that person only once. But if you look it from other perspective, you can be followed by many people, right? Okay.
Here the following ID and followers ID will be just again incrementing, correct?
No, no. The primary key will be incrementing, but these two will have the actual user ID.
Yeah, so that will be strings.
Yeah, strings of this value over here.
Yeah, exactly. One the follow. Okay, but again, then we have to show it as well, right? The number of followers and the number of following.
Yeah, again, join queries.
Cool.
Yeah, it's I mean, it might not make sense now, but
Yeah, yeah,
if
yeah. No, no,
we,
no, no. I'm getting it. I'm just not in a hack of SQL right now, right? So that's why
yeah, yeah,
I'm
okay.
getting it. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so uh, yeah, I mean, you're getting it. That's really great. It will make more sense when we actually write those queries, those insert queries and those join queries in the backend itself. Okay, so let's just look at it. So follower and following, as the name suggests, when I follow you, what I'm doing here, right? So I am following you, right? So suppose say Mayuk is there. He has a user ID A and I have a user ID B. Okay, so I am following him. So I will put a query to update the follower ID as A as Mayuk's. Okay, sorry, as following, because I am following him right now, and B as follow, that is me. So in this case, in this relationship, it's a follower to following. So I am following Mayuk. So in this case, my query will be wherever the follower uh, id is sorry, following id is Mayuk's. Get I will get the number of followers who are related to Mayuk in this case. I mean, it might be a bit confusing, guys. Just please let me know if you can understand this particular, just this table alone. Is it clear? Any doubts with the follow reels? To see again, as the name suggests, follow and following. In suppose I'm following Mayuk, who has a user ID A and I have a user ID B. So I'm following Mayuk. In this case, my the following ID will be Mayuk's and follower ID will be B, because I am the follower of Mayuk and I am following him. Is that clear? Yeah. Any doubts about this? Just a second. Yeah. Okay. I mean, so we are more or less done. Right. So we have implemented the database structure for this, and we have implemented two more additional ones: the save and the tags feature. All right. Like a comment. I am not fully sure about this yet. Uh, I'm probably thinking we should use the same table, but since the follower foreign key should be pointing to that particular table, we probably have to segregate the table, like likes for articles and likes for comments in this case. But we'll look into that later. This is just an additional feature, okay? All right. Like table share, this all this is all UI features. We don't have to worry much about it, right? So we have pretty much finished the table, the database schema for the the minimum viable product that we're looking for. We finished for that. Any doubts with this? What I will do is I'll take a screenshot of this and it will be over here. Okay, so database schema as of today. So obviously we might update it in the future, and we will try to come up with SQL queries for it later hand. Okay. All right. Next was yeah. Let's go to dev. We have to plan the UI, right? So uh, hash node. I hope you've heard of all these, and obviously medium. So all these are blogging platforms, right? So have you heard of these? Dev. You might be familiar too. There's one more called Hashnode and Medium. Yeah, this one everybody is familiar with. So I was thinking like we will take parts of all these three websites and combine them and use that for a UI. What do you guys think? I mean, if I come to the yeah this one also, I had saved some over here of what the landing page might be, what the home page might be, and yeah, what the articles page might be, and different layouts for mobile as well, and how we'll read an article on a mobile, and yeah, landing page for the mobile as well. I mean, if you're interested, we can take like 15-20 minutes more and uh, just get a rough idea of what we want the UI to be. What do you guys think? I mean, we can end it right here, but in the next session, we'll write those queries to create the tables, and when we'll finalize the UI as well.
Kunal, will we make the wireframes for the UI?
Yeah, we can make the. You're interested in doing it right now? Okay, you
Uh,
want to create the SQL tables now. All right, we can do. All right, so you want to finish up with
I,
the database first.
I don't think so. The structure will take much of a time because the layout is already ready.
Yeah, I'm just saying
So
because we'll be taking the best parts of all these three.
yeah.
All right, so
Just send the links in the group, like while posting the summary of the recording. Just
yeah,
attach the three links. We'll have a look on the three UIs, and then we can finally have a discussion at the end, like in the next meeting
yeah,
yeah,
in the
that's
for
next
the
all.
meeting,
front
we
end.
can do all about UI and we can finish the structure of the database right now.
Yeah, all right. So we'll wrap up with the database now. Yeah, I mean, if you remember in the dev docs, I written one more feature, right? Uh, Light dark mode toggle. So if you see in hash node, you see this button over here. This is something like this we can do as well. And it's pretty cool, this feature. All right. So yeah. So yeah, I'll just come here and we'll write it off over here as of now. Okay. And yeah, this one. So first we have to make the user details table. Yeah, this is going to be a bit. Yeah, create table user underscore details. I mean, the usual naming convention is to use underscore while putting the when you're separating different uh, words. Okay. Create table user details. Right, then we had this. So we had the values, right? So first one was the user ID. Okay, I forgot the syntax. Right.
I guess it's text only, maybe.
Create table SQL syntax. I mean, see, you don't have to remember all of this. You can always Google it up. All right, yeah. So user ID will be like a
Varchar.
varchar of. I'm probably. Have you heard of this one? Nano ID. Basically it generates a random string for us, something like this. So we can we'll be using this in our project. So we'll be generating a nano id and it will return us a string like this. So if I go to this one, it gives a probability of how it can be hacked also. So if my id is like 20 characters, it will take at least 19 billion years for a 1% probability of at least one collision, right? One collision means the probability of getting at least the same user id, that same id again. So I mean, we don't have to go there, we can just keep it at
10, I
probably
guess.
yeah 10. So yeah, around 10, right? So 10 characters means after 10. Okay, and primary key. All right. Next we had the name, right? Full name. Full name in this case also. What do you think, a Vacker? And how big does the name usually go? I mean, let's just keep it 235 in this case. Uh, After that, we will have the email. It's also Vacker 255. Uh, their links. I mean, there's a particular one I'm looking for in this case. Uh, I mean, so Vacker, we can put tiny text also here.
Well, we can add a not null keyword so that the user doesn't leave it blank.
For the full name.
Full name or basically any entry, the user should not leave it blank, so we can add a not null keyword.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then the links, as you mentioned, it will be a string, right? But uh, I'm not sure how big the string, so we can just put like a text. Yeah, text should do it. And other one was yeah, the hashed password. Password also can be like a tiny text. Not runs for all. Okay. Then yeah, user registered. Registered at can be like a, it's a date time. If I'm not wrong. Date time, and we can put default. See your current. I forgot this one. Default. Text. Yeah, current. No, this was the current timestamp. Type is timestamp. Yeah, current timestamp. And then the last login also be a date type of daytime, and yeah, we can keep this as default as current timestamp. Why? Because when the user creates an account, at the same time, it's his first login, right? So we can show that as well. So whenever the user logs in consecutively, we just have to update this particular field alone. Okay. Does this table make sense? I hope there's no. I mean, we'll have to put it in PHP my admin and test it out later. But yeah, so this is for the user details. If you have to create table for the articles, this model. Okay, so we have the article ID, which is camel case. Okay, primary key.
You can change the second screen, Kunal.
Oh, yep. Sorry. Yeah, so we have the article table. So we have the article ID. The foreign key we put in the last. So we have the title. Title can be just text. Then body, I'm not sure how big it can go to, so we can put a long text. After that, we have the, yeah, I mean, is published, right? Okay, so there's two ways we can approach this. So if I come into data types, you see this enum value, right? So enum lets you have a list of default values, values that are restricted within the enum itself. So I can put like enum true or false, all right? Things there is no boolean. I mean, boolean is like a uh, zero or one in this case, but there is no true or false exactly over here. uh, Either we can use enum or there's one more tiny and bit. Yeah, usually people, what I've seen people is use this bit, right? So they set it to either zero or one. Zero meaning false, one meaning true in this case. Okay, so this can be decided for now. We can just put it as bit, and default is zero because it is not published by default. After that, we have the created at, it is date type, default current timestamp, and then yeah, large modified, default current timestamp, and published it. Okay, and yeah, finally is foreign. Right, we had to mention this one as well. User ID, what content, okay, and then foreign. Guys, let me know if this is the right syntax. Okay, foreign key. Over here, user ID, references. Uh, References, what was it, the table name?
Yeah, user details.
Yeah, so yeah, foreign key MySQL. Yeah, okay, the table name and the primary key over there. So user details here, and it would be user ID. So there's one important field I want to, I mean, uh, constraint that I want to show you. It's called on delete cascade. So what does this mean, right? Suppose a user deletes their account, right? So when a user deletes their account, I want all the articles written that by that user also should be deleted. So what this command does is, whenever there's a deletion of that particular foreign, I mean primary key in the user details table, all the foreign keys associated with the same user ID will be deleted. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Alright. So this is the details. Okay. Then here we have our articles table. Okay. Yeah. Up next I mean, let's just total 620 and then call it a day. We can do the rest later. Okay. So next we have the comments table, right? Yeah, create table, article comments. If you guys have a better name, yeah, feel free to tell it. I'm just doing what was coming at the top of my head. Yeah, so create table article comments. Yeah, so comment ID. It's worker 10 primary key. User ID where 10 not none. Then article any small mistakes. Article ID is worker 10 not none. And what were the other two? Yeah, comment. So it's the comment content. It is how big can we limit and comment. Yeah, I think. What do you guys think? Text or medium?
Kunal, I already created one in chat box. You can just edit it over there.
Right? See that? Alright, yeah, this would be better.
And obviously add that on
Yeah,
delete cascade.
on delete cascade. Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Comment content to be added.
Yeah, how big do you think it should be? Comment content. The data type.
Can be big. People obviously like sometimes mention their views. It
Right?
makes sense like if they keep paras.
Or the medium text makes sense, right?
Yeah, cool. Medium text.
Yeah. Alright, so yeah, so the comments table is in and the likes. Right? Create table article likes. Okay, so we will have an this is called it like ID, but it has no significance over here. So
Kunal,
we'll
just
just
could you shift the schema a bit left?
uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
okay, this one. Okay, so there's the there's your like ID. It will be a primary key auto increment, not none. Okay, wait, was auto increment supposed to be a default? Right. So in this case, it's the int, right? Alright. Next, we had the foreign key, right? So it's the article ID, 10, and then we had the user ID, who liked it, marker 10, and then giving those. Yeah, let's take these two. Yep, perfect. And next was the categories table. category table. Okay, so we have the create table.
Kunal, in primary key, you need not mention not null. Obviously, not null.
So it will auto increment by itself.
Yeah, in primary key cannot be left null. Any primary key, I guess.
All right, I didn't perform.
Okay, wait, you carry on. I'll check once.
I mean, what they're doing is like they put auto increment and primary key like this. Auto increment to primary key. And people are using something called identity. Okay, that's something new. What was the identity actually? Okay, this is not for our. We are using MySQL, not Microsoft SQL server. So yeah, that in this case, it's identity. For us, it's auto increment. Categories, and we'll have the yeah category ID as record and this is and primary key, which will have the category name. This can be a tiny text and that one and description and same thing for the text table. Create text and ID and primary key and type name can be a tiny text and alright, it's the intermediate table for both the categories and the tags with the article table. So you can call this the categories create table, article categories, this category and then yeah, so the exact relationship was same one over here. Just be just call it ID. We don't need any particular name for it. Okay. Yeah, we have the category. Yeah, category ID. Button and the and this No, let's just go with the same name. Right, and finally look at the article tags table. We are almost done. One thing is similar to this. This with of article category the article tags. Tags. Alright. And yeah, the follower details table. So yeah. Similarly, the ID over here just need to increment uh, into follower ID and following ID not and I think we are pretty much done with first right. Okay, so we have done with writing the queries that are required. Yeah, I will just test them out locally before making some changes. Right, so primary key constraint uniquely identify each other. Primary key must contain unique values and cannot contain none. So yeah, we have to put the auto increment, right?
Yeah, yeah, obviously
Okay,
we have
right.
to.
Got it, makes sense. All right, so I will test these out locally without you make sure that they don't have any errors before you actually do it yourself. And yeah, so we have finished our database schema, and we'll discuss the UI in the next session. All right. One more thing I wanted to show you guys before we end it. I mentioned we'll be using SAS as well. Have any of you heard of SAS? SASS? Any idea what it is?
Kind of a CSS, right?
Yeah,
It's an extension language basically.
yeah, exactly. So basically, you can add logic to CSS. That's the main idea, logic, and it makes your CSS easy to write. Alright, so I'll show you quickly subtle differences. Okay, so suppose say you had a you had a root. Your root is your HTML element, and you had to put in a variable like this, right? So I'll just put PG color something like this, and I'll put red. Okay, just an example. And suppose say you had a class dot red, where the background color is where where that refers to the PG color. Okay, so this is somewhat how you would use variables within CSS, and how do I actually use it in SCSS, right? It makes it much easier. So I'll just put to use SCSS or SAS. I mean, both are kind of interchangeable, but not exactly. We'll in SCSS you can write the exact CSS with the semicolons and the curly brackets. In SASS, however, you don't need the curly brackets or the semicolons, but we prefer SCSS because it's much more closer to CSS and gives the same functionalities as SAS. So to use SAS, we need a obviously all of you have to do a you have to install yarn add SASS and put a dash T flag if you want to use it globally. All right, and yarn add node SAS. Okay, so these are the two packages we'll be needing. And what I've basically done is I've created a script called SASS that runs the node SAS library, which dash W and SASS. So there's a SASS folder, right? So dash W means watch this folder, and dash O means output. Whatever changes are there in this folder, output to my public CSS folder in this case. All right. Uh, okay, so we've been using NPM all along, right? So I recently switched to Yarn. I'll tell you the use why it's kind of better than NPM in the next session. For now, I'll just do yarn run SAS. All right. So now see how do I use variables in here? So I thought I have to initialize a variable, you have to put a dollar and the variable name, and then whatever you want after that. So again, red, a class of dot red, and has a background of dollar color. And I'll save this to home.css. Overwrite. Okay, just a second. Color, dollar, color. Yep. So you can see when I saved it, it automatically compiled it, and I got this output over here. Sometimes there might be a case where you have a child, right? A child dotted, and then you have another class, say, just say green, where you want the text to be green. Whatever text is inside the red color box, the element with the class red, you want uh, that text to be green. So you just do color green, something like this, right? So instead of you getting this one and using child selector like this, I'll remove this off. What you can do is just come inside dot red and do dot green, and here you put color green. I am not supposed to write over there. So you can see it automatically wrote it for me the same way we wrote it before. So I just had to put what when I write dot green inside dot red, it means whatever child of element with class green uh, and is a child of dot red should have color green, and that automatically made the selector over here. I mean, we are not limited to this alone. Suppose say we have many buttons, right? You would have to get the class and then write it, and you would have to customize it for each and every button, right? So what in SCSS you can use something called mixin, and let's just call it make button that takes in say the color PG color and the dollar text color in this case. Okay, so this is just an example: border radius 10 pixels, background color can be obviously my PG color that I pass in here, and my text color is my dollar text color in this case. Okay, so now I have like a dot prime a class primary button. Okay, I'll use to bring these styles here. I have to put add include and then the name of the mix-in or the custom style that is just defined. So make button, and I can pass in the color. So suppose say red and then blue here, and then I have a dot uh, call call to action button again at include make button, This can be orange, and sorry, yellow in this case. Okay, so I'll save this, and you can see it automatically got those pretty much. I didn't have to write that much CSS. I just had to use a pre-built kind of like a function. Okay, it's a function for styles, and it automatically outputted it over here. Okay, so yeah, we'll be using SAS. It'll be pretty fun, right? Yeah, I mean, yeah. So that was it for today's session, and I want to inform you guys like